The Transform Your Mind radio hour is a journey through the mind, offering fresh approaches to old problems that plague the African-American woman and youth. Host Myrna Young, life coach, and Arifa Youssef, social worker, discuss topics such as relationships, depression, the single life, how to supercharge your marriage, poverty mindset, and more. Tune in every Wednesday at 5 p.m. and transform your mind to transform your life.
Welcome to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio hour and podcast. I'm your host, life coach Myrna Young, and in the co-host chair today is Ms. Arifa Youssef Mortley, registered social worker, mental health counselor, and founder and program director of Lifted by Purpose. Welcome again, Arifa. I'm enjoying our segments.
Thank you, Myrna. I'm enjoying being a part of this with you.
Yes, well, thank you so much, because I know you're a very busy lady.
Like you.
Right.
You're very busy as well.
Yeah, I know, right? We all wear many hats. That makes life interesting. Awesome. Well, today I want to, or Arifa and I should say, want to talk to you on the topic of how to transform your thoughts into things. Because we all know that, or we should know, that whatever you hold in your head, you can hold in your hand. One of my favorite quotes. All right, well, before we get into our topic today, I want to say a special thank you to our sponsor, Columbus Financial Coach. Are you in a deep hole of financial depression with nowhere to turn for help, constantly being harassed by collection agencies? Then visit Columbus Financial and Success Coach at www.columbusfinancialcoach.com. All right, so transforming your thoughts into things. This is one of the oldest principles of success. Way back before Christ in Proverbs, the Bible teaches us in Proverbs 23:7, so a man thinketh, so he is. You are literally what you think, and your character is the complete sum of all your thoughts. What you are thinking now and what you think tomorrow and next month will eventually be what you will become. As I quoted earlier, this statement, so a man thinketh, so is he, is printed in the Bible, but James Allen made this principle famous in his book, As a Man Thinketh. So, if you want success, love, happiness, contentment, wealth, then you need to transform your thoughts into reality, or your thoughts into things that you want. So here are some other ways you may have heard this quote. As a man thinks, so is he. As he continues to think, so he remains. He who cherishes a beautiful vision, a lofty ideal in his heart, will one day realize it. To desire is to obtain. To aspire is to achieve. Your greatest achievement starts out as a thought or a dream. One of my favorites. The oak sleeps in the acorn, and the bird awaits in the egg. Thoughts are the seedlings of reality. And finally, the one I just mentioned. What you hold in your head, one day you will hold in your hand. I came across this story of rapper Missy Elliott, and it's such a powerful story to illustrate what we're talking about today. So I want to share it with you. As a grade student in Virginia, her classmates would have never believed that Melissa Arnett Elliott would one day win 6 Grammys, 2 AMAs, and become the first female rap artist to be inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. But she did. In fact, Missy said that she saw herself as a legend long before anyone else could. Missy explained that in elementary school, every week the teacher would ask the students what they wanted to be when they grew up. And Missy's answers was always the same. I'm going to be a superstar. And the whole class would bust out laughing. It's funny, she says. I was telling someone that everything I spoke, I've done. And that's how powerful the tongue is. I used to sit in my house and act like I was having a conversation with Janet and Michael and Madonna and whoever. I would then say my acceptance speeches for award shows that I hadn't even made it to yet. I made speeches, and I would be in the mirror thanking my mama. Trust me, she says, I was broke, and my family would be like, you better find something to do. Then they told me to go into the Army, and I'm like, I'm too fat to go to the Army. Where am I running to? Everything just seems so impossible at the time because we didn't have the technology to be able to reach out and put our stuff online and give people the chance to go see it. So you have to be at the right place at the right time. Missy said that she carried on this spirit of speaking her dreams into existence into adulthood, even after securing a record deal. I told my mom, I'm going to buy you a house, and I'm going to buy you an elevator in case your legs start hurting and you can't climb the stairs. And my mom would laugh and be like, all right, honey. But you know, when I got my first check, I didn't even buy myself a house first. I bought my mother a house, put a Bible in the soil, and built it from the ground up. So that's how thoughts become things. After battling grave disease, domestic abuse, and a brutal male-dominated industry, there's nothing Missy can't overcome. And you know why? Because she thought it into existence. So that's my story, Missy Elliott. I just read it, I think, Essence published it in Black History Month or something, and I thought it was great. We all know that hard work and holding on to your vision in between the trials, failures, and struggles, which are part of life, is the way to do things. In all human affairs, there are efforts and there are results. The strength of the effort is the measure of the result, or the quality of your thoughts. The transformation of your thoughts into reality are the fruits of effort. They are thoughts completed, objectives accomplished, and visions realized. Remember, the vision you hold in your mind, the ideal you hold and enthrone in your heart, this you will build. This you will become. All right. So, also, I wanted to reinforce that people with a positive outlook may be more likely to live a healthier lifestyle since they have a more hopeful view of positive future. All right, so here is where I'm going to bring in my mental health counselor and social worker, Arifa. Listening to the story of Missy Elliott, do you have a story that you can share either from a personal, you bringing your thoughts into things, or one of your clients?
Yes, I do. I just want to say that story of Missy Elliott, that was such a great story. I know I've looked up to her growing up as a young person, her as a woman, an entrepreneur, an artist. So actually hearing her story, it just really brings it back to the light of, thoughts into things is a very important conversation to have. The more people need to realize that it's real, right? It always starts with you, right?
Yeah.
But I definitely have a story to share. I thought about sharing one of myself, because I know a lot of people always ask me when I go to schools or when I'm doing presentations, how did I start how did I start Lifted by Purpose? How did I get into this? And I remember sitting down and just thinking back on it and realizing how much work, but really how my thoughts are the reason that I am here today with what I'm doing. So I know, like, years ago, I remember asking myself if I thought I was making a difference. I felt really stuck at a certain point in my career, in my life, and I just said, like, why did you get into this field? Do you feel you're making a difference? I started to ask myself questions about my purpose, if I was using my skill sets wisely. So I felt, you have all this education that you've taken, you're doing all this professional development, but are you actually using it? And I started to think about what kind of difference I wanted to make. How did I want to use these skills, and how best would I use them? So it all seemed overwhelming at first. When you get in your thoughts at first, sometimes you have tons of thoughts happening. And I felt very overwhelmed. But then the more I thought about it, the more I believed it was possible to really make a difference that I wanted to see. And those thoughts began to turn into actions. So I thought about the name of my organization. I would think about the logo, what colors, what I wanted it to look like, what I wanted to do, who I wanted involved, all the things that I wanted to make a reality. Every day I would take time and I would think about it. Like every detail I would think about. And everything I thought about, it came to fruition because I believed I could manifest it. Nice. So the best part about it all was that I engaged a lot of the youth that I worked with over the years in my ideas and my plans. So I had them vote on my logo ideas. I had them give me, and yeah, I did. I remember I came up with it and I said, hey, you know what, this is great in my head. But at the end of the day, it's not just about me. It's about the people that I want to help. So why wouldn't I involve them? Why wouldn't I involve them in the process? So I remember I got a whole bunch of them, and I sent them pictures of, I had 3 logos, and I said, hey, what are your thoughts around these logos? Just look at them, give me your input. They're all young people. I think they were like 14 all the way up to like 28 years old, and I asked them all for input. And then I asked them input about projects and ideas that I had that would be involved in the organizations, and would this be something you would want to come to? And I always dreamed about creating something that would make an impact, that would engage young people, not just as participants, but leaders and creatives. I thought of all the partnerships I wanted, what I hoped would happen in the next 5 years. I always tell people I really dreamed about what I wanted. I thought about it every day, and I really mean that. Like, I did think about it every day. I'd whip out my BlackBerry at the time. I'd be on the train, and I would think about it. I'd be like, oh, my God, can you make this happen? I'd be, yeah, I can make it happen. And I would write down all the ideas, and anything that came to my mind, I would write it in my BlackBerry. And then and in detail, lots of detail. And then one day I decided, you know what, I'm gonna take a risk. And I registered the name, Lifted by Purpose, and I said to myself, this isn't just a name, it's a way of life. I always tell young people, if you believe you can, you're halfway there to making it a reality. And my thoughts, my hopes, all my optimism, it's such a powerful thing because it guided me towards my vision, and it guided me towards a lot of the success that I have. I dreamt it first, and I thought about it in detail. And so, yeah, like I really do. I tell people all the time, everything that you see, I dreamt first. And then I got up in the middle of the night and I wrote it down before I could forget it. So I literally, you can ask your son, he knows. So I always say it may take time. You may have ups and downs. I know I had a lot of ups and downs, but you'll always have wins once you work towards your goals. The first 2 small grants I applied for, I got denied. I even cried about it. I remember I cried about it. I was so upset, so mad, so bitter. I was super bitter. But I believed in my vision. I still believed in my vision. I kept writing grants. I kept writing them. Anybody who writes grants knows it's quite a trial to go through. And then my first grant I received, the first grant I received was $75,000. That was my first grant.
Nice.
So all the small
Nice.
grants I got denied.
Okay.
But
And
the
then you
biggest,
got a big one?
but I got a big one. That was my first one. So I was like, you know, who cares about the bass? Got a big grant, right? Maybe that was supposed to happen. That's what I would tell myself.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I continued to submit grants, and every year I would get more and more money. Every year I got more and more money. And I always say the first grant I ever wrote, anybody that knows me knows the day I submitted my first grant that I got the $75,000 for was the same day as my uncle's funeral. It was the same day. I cried probably half the way through writing that grant. But it was the same day it was due, right? So I was like, you know, he passed away. This is really hard. This is really hard, but I really want this. And I know I had shared with my uncle before he passed my ideas and what I wanted to do, and he was very supportive in my idea. And so I really felt like he was watching over me, and this was something I had to do. The second big grant that I got, I actually lost my hearing for 5 weeks. So I wrote that second grant and I got like almost $300,000, like $298,000. And with that grant, I couldn't hear in one ear. It was a painful experience. I think I cried during that too. I cried during that too because I was like, why? Why is this happening when I need to write stuff? Is this like a sign? What's going on?
What do you need to hear to write?
Yeah, I was writing with one. You can tell you can ask your son all about that too, because he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I have to get this in. I can't hear you, but I need to get this in." Yes. And despite all the hardships, I never gave up on myself. I never gave up on my team that believed in it. And I always held the vision to provide programs and services to youth. And I always think about the potential outcome of who will this benefit, because it is a lot of work, but I always think, what is the outcome going to be if we make this happen? If your dreams come true, what difference is it going to make, not just for you, but the people around you? And so my thoughts have always led me to where I want to be. And so that's how I always say, like, when I say lifted by purpose, I truly was lifted by my purpose because I was lifted by the things I believed in to get to what I wanted to do. Wow. So thought to do become things.
Yes. Wow. Well, your story, I think, is probably even more powerful than Missy Elliott's story. We all know that, you know, she's maybe a millionaire now and you're not. But my point is that it's perfect for our listeners to understand your process, the process of, you know, what is my purpose? What am I using my skills for? How am I benefiting the world? What is my contribution to this world? Because, you know, every one of us has a unique contribution, and a lot of us don't think about it. A lot of us go through life, maybe 97%, it's a lot, go through life and just, you know, just live and don't think about those higher states of consciousness. But you got there, and you thought about it and wrote it down and dreamed about it. And I like the way you said the word risk, because it is always a risk when you are putting yourself on the line. So you said you take the risk and you registered your business and you went for it. You live in a very beautiful country where, you know, the government normally supports entrepreneurship. You know, we in the United States have a little bit of it, but not to the extent that the government in Canada helps out entrepreneurs. I remember that when I started my limousine service, you know, way back, I was able to go to the bank and get a venture capital loan where they give me 50%. I put down a certain amount of money and they matched it. I don't know if I was telling my son about that the other day. I told him to ask you about it. But my point is that they lend a helping hand. You know, another one of my clients, I met her here in the United States, but I started coaching her. She lives in Sudbury. And when I met her, she had this vision of a business. right? And ended up being laid off from our company, and was able to stay with the government giving her money for 2 years while she started her company. Stuff like that you don't get here. When I got laid off, I think I got 4 months' pay, and it was a very small amount. I think it was a total of $4,000 in those 4 months, because they give you the smallest amount of money. But here in Canada, she got full pay for 2 years, and that allowed her to start a business. And now, she started one business, and she's got a magazine, and now she's doing franchises. Just that little push and that little help. You're talking about grants. Everybody needs a little step that they can step on to climb. You know what I mean? And we all need that first help, and that first. And Canada is an amazing country for that. So I like that. I've heard about the grants, because your son told me about them, and we were discussing them. And in fact, one of the reasons that me and you got together for this show is because we were talking about a grant, and I realized your brilliance, because when you're putting together a grant, you got to sell your vision, and you got to sell what you're going to do and who you're going to help. And I recognized from that process that your ability and your skills, and that's why I asked you to come on the show. So, but when I thought of this topic, thoughts into things, I never thought that you would have such a powerful story. So that's amazing, and and I know that you're still growing, and you're still climbing, and you're still writing grants.
Yes, we know. It is an ongoing process.
Right, ongoing process, ongoing growth, and it's a beautiful thing. And you're still your director, or you're the program director of your company, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to help the youth, because it's helping a youth is so powerful, because that is where they can take the fork in the road and never come back. And if you can help them in the stage where their mind is pliable, it's a great thing. Sure, 40-year-olds can change and turn around and all that kind of stuff, but it's a much harder process. So you do good work. At some point in time we can talk about some of your programs. When you start talking about you looked up to Missy Elliott, I remembered that one of your programs talks about lyrics, and you use lyrics and songs to help to inspire the youth. So as soon as you start talking that, I made that connection. So I was never into music. I'm not into that kind of music, but thoughts into things. Most of the stars would tell you that that's where it started first. Yes.
I think what's so brilliant about Missy Elliott, and why I think a lot of young people in my generation really looked up for her, because one, she was like a young black woman, but she wasn't the stereotype that you usually see in videos or as an artist, right? She was so unique. You could tell that she had a huge say in what she wanted her videos to look like, and what she wanted herself as an artist to convey, and what her message is. She was very involved in the artistic part of it, like the creative process. And so it's like when I look at myself, I always want to be involved in my creative process. And sometimes I write grants, and I'm just very honest about what I want to happen. And people say to me all the time, what you wrote isn't going to happen. They're going to say, no, you're asking for too much. That's too different. That's too out of the box.
Okay.
People say that to me I get it all the time. And this summer I had the opportunity to take a bunch of youth to Muskoka, which is up north. It's like country, And sitting down with them, it's something you could breathe, you could feel, you could touch. You're out there. And they asked me, like, how did this happen? And I said, I wrote it, and people said it wouldn't happen. And I wrote it, and look, we're here. So it's like, even though everything we do, even you, Myrna, like, I really look up to you and the fact that you do real estate, you do so much. And
thank you.
We are role models to young people, because sometimes they can't see what they believe in for themselves, or they want to believe in for themselves. But when they look out and they see somebody else doing it, they're like inspired, and it makes them believe it's possible.
Well, that's what it's all about. Every single person that writes a book, every single person that comes on a podcast and shares their story, sometimes it's self-promotion, but usually it is to inspire somebody or to give someone hope and encouragement, which is what I do. Before we started recording, I sit here and I think about who is listening to the podcast and who do I want to help, and imagining, some, African American minority woman in a third world country, which is, my target audience, will hear something that we're talking about, specifically today, how thoughts can become things. You're not bogged down by the poverty. You're not bogged down by your circumstances. You can think it into existence, and this is basically what I want to encourage. Now, I clicked the button a minute ago, and the call dropped, and I had to call back in. So there is going to be a break in the conversation when you started talking about why you look up to Mr. Elliott. So can you repeat that again, please? Because you probably didn't even know the call dropped.
I didn't.
When I came back in here,
just some extra sound music happening, livening it up in the background. I was like, go Myrna, some music in the back. But no, I was just saying that I looked up to Missy Elliott, along with many of my peers. We looked up to her because she was the first individual, like outside of Janet Jackson, that we would look at and say, wow, like she's so creative. She's a part of her artistry. Everything that you see, she was involved in. The way her videos look, the way she dresses, the way her hair is, the messaging she wants in the video, the people that she partners with and how she wants them portrayed in the videos. You knew she was actively involved in the process. And, especially as women, especially in the entertainment industry, mostly men are making decisions for you, and mostly other directors are saying, this is not what's cool, this is what's cool, this is what's trending. So for her to be able to step outside and say, this is what I want to see happen, you've seen it in her videos, and as a young person, you look to that and you say, hey, like I have the opportunity to think outside of the box, and I have the opportunity to be creative. And yeah, people may say no, but it's the fact that what if somebody says yes? What will that look like? And so I really admired her, and I feel like even for myself, as I was saying, when I'm writing grants, I'm really thinking outside of the box, and I'm thinking about what am I actually seeing, not what other people want to see or what is like typical programming, what that looks like. That's already out there. I want something new. I want something fresh. I want something, that I feel will impact youth. I want to listen to their ideas. Youth are very intelligent and they're very creative. I want to bounce ideas. I want to collaborate with them. I don't want to be the one looking down to them and saying, this is what I have for you. I want them to say, hey, like, what about this? That's a great idea, but, it would make it better. What about this? Or I have an idea. Do you think that would work? How can you support me in my idea? And that's what I love about the organization that I created is we have a lot of creative youth, and we involve them in a lot of the work that we do where they feel like they're collaborating, and I think that's very important.
Makes them feel important, it builds their self-esteem, and they might even go on to become entrepreneurs. So
exactly,
that's awesome.
And that's what awesome. I really hope will happen.
Good job. Yes, I'm definitely proud of you. Definitely. All right. Well, that was a long first segment. So let us take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some steps to transform your thoughts into things. Because hey, we got to give you a blueprint. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Are you in a deep hole of financial depression with nowhere to turn to for help? Constantly being harassed by collection agencies? Then Columbus Financial is here to help. Get the financial freedom that you deserve. Visit Columbus Financial and Success Coach today for help on financial planning, money management, debt management, credit repair, credit consulting, financial life coaching, and success coaching. Let one of our financial experts help you today. Get your financial and personal life back in perfect alignment. Visit our website at www.columbusfinancialcoach.com. Once again, that is www.columbusfinancialcoach.com. And dig yourself out of financial depression. Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio hour and podcast. I'm your host, Life Coach Myrna Young, and sitting in the co-host chair is registered social worker and mental health counselor, Ms. Arifa Yusuf Mortley. So we started our segment with some powerful information on a couple of examples of turning your thoughts into things, which is our topic today. And so now we want to transition into giving you some steps or some tips into how you go about it. I know Rifa talked about the fact that she would get up in the middle of the night and write everything down, or she would be on the train and she would, write everything in her BlackBerry. Yeah, I do the same thing now because, I am also very creative when I'm, producing the show and finding the topics and things like that. That's basically the same thing that I do now. And, of course, as I get old, I have to put everything down and put it in my schedule in order to do as I think about things, too. So writing things down serves several purposes. It serves the fact that you're solidifying it, you're taking it out of the thought realm, and you're making it into a thing because you're writing it down. It does something about your goals when you do that. And, of course, you get an inspiration, and if you don't write it down, 2 days later you don't remember what it is. So it serves two purposes. All right. So as we step into transforming steps to transform your thought into things, this is what I want to share. You've got to remember that there's a supply for every demand, but you must have perfect faith. If your demand is to be married and have a family, then you've got to believe that there's a man waiting for a wife and a family that's meant for you. So step one is act like you already have what you want. I've been hearing that a lot of ways and a lot of places, but it's very true. And I'm going to share a story to illustrate this. I read a story where this man spent all his money on a fur-lined coat. His wife asked him, why would he do such a thing? Why would he spend all his money on a coat? And he said, this coat will pay for itself in extra commissions. And that's exactly what happened. Because you see, when he put on this coat and he wore it around, he felt rich and successful. And that made him transform his thoughts and his thinking and his attitude and his aura and everything about the fact he was already successful. He felt successful by just wearing this expensive coat. And guess what happened? Within a month, he got $10,000 more in commissions. And he only paid $700 for a coat. So, feel it and believe it. That's step number one. Step number two, give thanks for having received it. In my journal, we're just talking about, Arifa talking about writing her goals down. I do the same thing. I have a journal. It's all part of visioning, right? And I write down all my goals, and I write down when I plan to achieve them. But I read someplace in one of my readings, because I'm like a voracious reader, and I take everybody's advice. And one of the books that I was reading, they said that, this same here, number two, give thanks for having received it, and then thank God for giving it to you. So at the end of each of my goal, I have this statement. Thank you, Father, for I know that you have heard me. I am so grateful and happy to let's have one of my goals. One of my goals is to have 1 million downloads on my podcast. So that's what I say. I'm happy that I have 1 million downloads on my podcast. Yours could be something like, thank you, Father, for I know you have heard me. I'm so grateful and happy that I have a husband who loves me and 2 children I adore. Da-da-da-da. So remember, anything you ask in prayer and believe that you have already received it will be yours one day, without a doubt. All right, step number 3 is prepare for its arrival. Dig your ditches. Last week, on this topic of the game of life and how to play it, and I got this from that book, and I think it's so. I've heard it before several different times, but this one sunk in, and I'm going to talk about it a lot because it's really great. In the Bible, Isaiah said to the 3 kings, thus said the Lord, though you do not see the rain, make this valley full of ditches. And this is in 2 Kings. So basically, the principle is that man must prepare for the thing he has asked for, even though there is not the slightest possibility of it in sight. I'll give you a practical example. I was speaking to my girlfriend a couple of weeks ago. She's 55 years old and haven't dated in over a year, but she's praying for a husband. So how would she dig her ditches and prepare for love, right? She's got to keep the faith. She's got to believe that she's not too old for love. She's got to keep her mind and spirit young. She's got to keep her body fit. And she has to have a positive mindset and speak words of confirmation. For instance, talk about it. You know, when I come on this show and I talk about something, I'm actually speaking words of confirmation. When you tell your friend, I'm going to marry that man, you're speaking words of confirmation. You know, so she can speak words of confirmation, saying something, what, and I will go to Bali together. I always want to go to Bali. When I get married, we're going to go to Bali together. That's speaking words of confirmation. That's speaking words of faith, right? That's digging your ditches, right, before you see any sign of rain. All right, and the last one is have a friend hold your vision for you. A friend or healer can hold a vision for you. You should ask for help if you find yourself wavering, right? No man can fail if at least one person thinks he's successful. Many a great man owes his success to a wife or sister or friend who held his belief to a perfect pattern. If your vision is for a husband, have your girlfriend hold that vision for you. Every eligible bachelor she sees, she will think of you or try to set you up and all these different things, and that adds energy to your vision. So when I saw this, I remember my daughter and, my husband, my son, I should say, that, I can hold a vision for them. I can hold a vision for them that, one day that they will walk in their purpose. I can hold a vision, and I can be praying and standing in the gap. So yes, and when I saw that, I felt that that's great. That means that it will happen. All right, Aretha. So as the mental health counselor, I know that you have got some tips yourself in, what some of the steps are that our listeners can take to turn their thoughts into things.
Okay. So first off, I wanted to add in something that I read from a spiritual well-being author and mentor. Her name is Anna Brees Newman. And she wrote, everything is first an idea or a thought before it comes into creation. Consciousness is the source of it all, meaning that your mind and thinking are the fuel for creating matter, the physical appearance and experiences that show up in your life. This is the basic law of attraction teachings. They teach you to understand that you have the power to shape your life with your thoughts and emotions. And I love it because I know that's something that you hold and that you teach in your life coaching, Myrna. So when I read it, I actually thought about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a big consciousness fan. Yes, thank you.
I really thought about you and the law of attraction, the teaching. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to read this on the show. But in terms of some of my steps, I always tell clients, first, think about the idea or what it is that you want to do in detail as if it's already in existence, right? So visualization, or as if you're already successful. Second, I say write down what you're thinking. Write the steps you have to take and what you need to make it happen. 4, who do you need to involve? So whether that's a family member, a friend, maybe you walk by, a building and, you want to own a building one day and you're always seeing, the realtor coming by. Maybe that's the time you stop and you ask questions, right? But realize, who do you need to involve? What value do they add to your vision? And the number 5, which is the last one, celebrate your milestones. So whenever you do take a step towards something that you're thinking about and you make it into a reality, you have to celebrate each of those milestones, because those things will encourage you to begin to think about the process, where you started, where you are, and then to visualize what comes next. So those are my 5 steps that I tell my clients.
Perfect. I like the last one too, celebrate, because a lot of people do not celebrate small wins and small victories. They're thinking, okay, I want to make $1 million, or I want to be the CEO, or I want this, I want that, or for instance, your dreams, right? But they don't celebrate something as small as getting their first client or first grant, or I don't know, small victories. you don't wait for the big
your
things.
Name somewhere. You see your name in an article, or somebody mentions you to another, like refers you, like a referral.
Right.
No one takes the time to say, "Oh, damn, I got a referral from somebody else."
Yes.
That's a small win. Like someone else thinks you're professional. Someone else believes in what you're doing to refer somebody to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I celebrate my small wins and small victories. Yes, because it feels good. I'm not thinking that, hey, there's a lot of people that can't do that because they're all so anal about, I got to get to the top of the ladder. I'm not celebrating the first step or the first rung in the ladder. So very good. Love your steps. All right. Now we're moving right along at a great pace. So let's take our second break. And when we come back, we will wrap it up, and we're going to talk a bit on positive thinking. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Are you in a deep hole of financial depression with nowhere to turn to for help? Constantly being harassed by collection agencies? Then Columbus Financial is here to help. Get the financial freedom that you deserve. Visit Columbus Financial and Success Coach today for help on financial planning, money management, debt management, credit repair, credit consulting, financial life coaching, and success coaching. Let one of our financial experts help you today. Get your financial and personal life back in perfect alignment. Visit our website at www.columbusfinancialcoach.com. Once again, that is www.columbusfinancialcoach.com, and dig yourself out of financial depression. Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life Radio Hour and Podcast. I'm your host, Life Coach Myrna Young, and our co-host is social worker and mental health counselor, Ms. Arifa Yusuf Morthy. And we have been talking today on the topic transforming your thoughts into things. And I think we had a very powerful conversation today on the process of going from scratch into making something, going from thinking of a thought and turning something out of it. One of my favorite quotes is the acorn, lives in the oak tree. So think about it. Think about your thoughts as small as a mustard seed, or you get some kind of inspiration, and you build on that and build on that and build on that until one day you can actually hold that small little thought that's grown into a big oak tree, and you can actually hold it in your hand. So that's basically what we're talking about. So as we wrap up, I just want to touch on one more aspect of this, and that is positive thinking. We started off talking about the scripture verse, as a man thinketh, so is he, or some form of that. So, I mean, we're sitting here, we're talking about, thinking of your goals, and Missy Elliott saying that she's going to be a superstar when she was 7, and we can bring a whole bunch of people that knew that they wanted to be a star from very early, and they transformed those thoughts into being very wealthy and being the best, and being, there's many stories of that. But most of the stories, the ones that you don't hear, are the opposite, are people thinking that they're not good enough, people thinking that they're born in the wrong side of the track, people thinking that nothing ever good is going to come out of them because they're black, or they're a minority, or they're whatever. You know what I mean? There's always a way of negative thinking coming to squash that little positive thought. And the negative thinking is, I wrote a blog post, an episode on ants, which is called automatic negative thoughts, and most of us have that. In fact, statistics show that we have the same thoughts over and over and over every day, and most of them are negative, and most of them repeat themselves. So I'm just going to, finish up our conversation today about trying to, keep your thoughts positive, keep your thoughts on a goal, keep your thoughts on something you want to improve your life, keep your thoughts on, your purpose. What is it that God intended for you to do while you're here, that you alone have the ability to do it? And keep your thoughts in that way, and start making small little steps towards it, because that is actually the definition of happiness. The definition of happiness is making positive steps towards a goal. And when you do that, there are going to be some spiritual benefits of that positive thinking, and that's going to include more creativity, greater problem solving, clearer thinking, better mood, better coping skills, less depression, right? So, positive thinking is a big one. I am a very positive thinker, and, I actually tried to trace back where that started or how that happened. But, every single thing that happens to me, whether, even if it's negative, I always look for the, like the old people would say, the silver lining in the cloud. And I always find it. I'm a very positive thinker. So, Aretha, any last words on positive thinking, or anything you want to share before we wrap up?
I would say, even when we're having thoughts, it's also being able to say them out loud. So I'm a strong believer, and I tell my clients, self-talk, affirmations. The more you say something as well, the more you believe in it. Sometimes we have these thoughts, but we have doubt, right? So it's like you need to believe in yourself more and have less doubt, but you also have to begin to say things out loud so that you can hear it. And the more you say things out loud, the more you actually will believe in it, because it's almost like you're putting the energy out and it's coming back to you. So I always say, make sure that you say your affirmations. Even if you don't believe it at first, you keep saying it over and over again until it becomes like a habit, until it becomes something that you believe, and that will help you work towards what you need to happen in your life.
That's very true. That's very positive. It's, another thing that I believe, and I do it myself, is that you speak it into the atmosphere. There's a song in church that I love, Speak It Into the Atmosphere, and it's very powerful. There's two thoughts to that. One, it's an affirmation that you speak it until you believe it, and then there's the other spiritual thing, is that words become things, that you can speak things into existence. You can also curse somebody with your words, but words are life. You can so the words are very important into manifestation. So when you're speaking it so that you can believe it, and you're also speaking it into existence. So very powerful. Awesome. Awesome. Like I say, Aretha, you always bring it. Love it.
Yeah, all right. Bring it too, Myrna. You have to give yourself taps too,
Yeah. We definitely make a great team. Love it. All right. So as we wrap up, I want to thank you for being with us until the end. I hope that you got some inspiration from this episode, and you're going to go and start writing your thoughts down and start believing that they can become things, that they can manifest into your physical reality, anything that you think about. Please show your support by posting a review on iTunes and subscribing to the podcast. If you have topics that you would like Aretha and myself to cover, you can send me an email at info@myhelps.us, or you can contact Aretha at liftedbypurpose.com. You can also join my private Facebook group called Life Coach, and just search for Life Coach, and I would approve you. To get transcript of this interview and links to any of the mentions that we have on the show, and Aretha's website, and our sponsor, which is ColumbusFinancialCoach.com, head over to my blog, which is blog.myhelps.us. Also, I want to give a plug for our next episode. We are going to be covering grief. So if you have any stories on, the loss of a loved one, or something that you're still battling with, and you have questions, please send that in so that we can answer it on the air in our next episode. So, Aretha, any last words?
No, I'm good. Thank you for having me on the air. And as Myrna said, I hope everybody comes and leaves some questions for us and keeps engaging in the show. And we thank you for all of your support.
Yes, please engage, and so that we continue to be encouraged. So, thanks again for tuning in to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life Radio Hour. Until next time, namaste.